a great job. I think, again, the quality of the people that we attract into the profession is just really, something of great importance. Sixth, we can lead the world. International relations is another area. Foreign travel, it sounds very exotic and whatever. But the fact of the matter is that globalization, which we all heard about 20 years ago, we heard about it 10 years ago, has really arrived. We need to reach out as an association, as a profession, both to help others, whether it's in developing libraries in countries in the third world, the envy that they have for what we have here in our library system in the United States is just something that's very, very touching. When there are disasters, we need to be there to help them to recover, such as in the tsunami a couple of years ago. But also, in addition to helping others, we need to learn from others. The Seattle Public Library has a very radical design in the way that they're accessing their collection. That was brought over from the Netherlands. There are things happening in libraries in Europe, in the Far East, in fact, that are ahead of what's happening in U.S. libraries. We need to get our head out of the sand and realize that we really do need to engage internationally. And again, we do have an opportunity as librarians by reaching out to people in other countries to help contribute to understanding, to tolerance, to knowledge, which we know will lead to justice and a more peaceful world. We are in a position to make a meaningful contribution. The next set of challenges have to do with library funding. You wondered when I'd get to that, I'm sure. The question here is, what can we do about library funding? You may be aware of the fact that the economy is in the worst recession in 50 years. If you're not, that's fabulous. And the fact of the matter is the next 2 years are going to be pretty tough. I don't think there's any question about that. The reality, however, is that the economy goes up and the economy goes down. Libraries tend to get ahead a little bit in good times, and they tend to get cut sometimes more than a little bit in bad times. Everywhere you look around now, you see libraries are reducing hours, they're closing branches, they're laying off staff, they're cutting materials budgets and electronic services. And this in a time when libraries are more heavily used than ever. I guess the question is, can we do anything about library funding? The answer, I think, is yes, we can. The answer is advocacy. We can fight back. We can succeed. What we've learned over the last 15 years, and if you look back at advocacy at ALA, it really only goes back to the early 90s, we've learned that advocacy works. We've learned that advocacy involves specific skills that anyone can learn, and that you don't need to be a genius to be successful. So what do you need to be successful? First, we need to make plans. We need to have plans for the improvement of library service at the local level, at the state level, and at the national level. Because the truth is, and this is based on my experience working with the Massachusetts legislature, that vision ultimately drives funding growth. It's very difficult to go in and say, well, we need money because we had it before. That is not necessarily a successful strategy. Sometimes it works. Second of all, I think we need to much more strongly assert our role in education. Libraries are the other half of our educational system. We need to look at what libraries do for kids, which is basically we're the place where children are prepared for success in formal education long before they get to kindergarten or first grade. We need to go head to head with the educational establishment. How many times have you run into a politician who said, oh, I'll cut anything, but I'll never cut education? And then guess what they do? They turn around and they cut libraries. We really need to start calling people on that. We also need to use a growing body of research that documents the value of libraries. We've got a lot of key studies for school libraries that show that a school library can make a difference of a letter grade in student performance. Studies that are beginning to show the impact of public libraries and studies that are beginning to show the impact of academic libraries. This research needs to be where we can use it. We also need to do a better job of involving the public as advocates for stronger libraries. I'm very proud that last year we were able to do something that nobody thought we could do. We were able to merge the Trustee Association in ALA with the Friends of the Libraries USA, which was an independent group, and to create a new division within ALA that for the first time brings together trustees and advocates, and I think really is going to have an enormous impact on getting citizen supporters energized. We have a new website called I Love Libraries. If you haven't visited, you should. It's really designed for people who like libraries, and it's got a lot of interesting stories about libraries. And then very sneakily, over on the left-hand side, all these little doorways where people can go in and join their local friends group, help support libraries, get involved nationally, and become more active advocates. I Love Libraries is getting about 500,000 hits a month at this point. So usage is definitely growing, and we're thrilled. We also need to increase public awareness of the importance and possibilities of libraries. We need to use radio, we need to use television, newspapers, magazines, and the internet. And this is something that ALA works very, very hard on. I think just in the last quarter there were something like 3,000 articles on libraries, the vast majority of which were positive. We occasionally get a negative story, and much of that media coverage is driven by the efforts of the association, but also by sending a story out that gets them to pick up the phone and say, hey, we're reading here that library use is up. Is that the case in your library? And then it gives you a chance then to build on that. We've got a great radio campaign called En Tu Biblioteca, which is designed to reach probably 80% of the Spanish-speaking population in the United States to encourage them to come to libraries. And we're working on a campaign right now to bring parents and children together as a place to come and spend quality time in a world where quality time is a disappearing commodity. We also have and are about to launch a new At Your Library website, and this is a real radical experiment on our part. It's a site that's designed for people who are interested in extreme sports, and what it will do is give them some interesting articles and then talk about ways in which they could then go to their library and learn more or do projects or various activities. The last thing we need to do is that we must work together if we're going to be successful as advocates. We must stick together. There's a famous quote, it's attributed to Sam Adams, and it goes, we must hang together or we shall surely hang separately. We need to do this at the state level and at the national level. This is my only actual ad for ALA, but I was a member for 25 years before I went to Chicago. Sure, it's big, sure it costs money, sometimes it can be frustrating, but I would argue that the return on investment is astounding, both personally and for libraries. You'll make connections that will change your life and enhance your career. You come back from conference and you're a genius because you're filled with wonderful new ideas. And for me, it's always been the difference between a job and a career. I spent 5 years in a job, and then I went to ALA, and that began what for me became a career. And then, most importantly, you need to put some skin in the game. Everyone needs to be a member of NCLA and ALA.